Hey there guys, and welcome back to the Steam networking tutorial series. This is the second episode, and this time around we're going to be expanding our Steam manager script a little bit, and we're also going to make sure that the Steam overlay is working while we're developing our game. So first of all, let's just take a look at the script here. And right now all the script does is initialize the Steam API, the Steamworks API, and print our Steam username to our Godot output. And we just did this to check that the Steamworks.net library worked. But now we're going to expand the script so that it checks for the player that the libraries are indeed working as expected. And if they're not, then throw an error. We're also going to check if the game is being run through the Steam client, and if not, the game will quit and start through Steam instead. Obviously, this specific feature will be turned off while we're developing our game so that we don't have to launch through Steam all the time. Now, the Steam Manager script is a script that will constantly run in the background while the game is being played. Even if you're changing the scene, it's important that the Steam Manager script keeps running, hence the reason for adding the script as an autoload script so that it's attached as a node to our root viewport at all times. Now, the Steam Manager script will also be responsible for running callbacks. And according to the Steamworks API, the callbacks are one of the most important aspects of Steamworks, and they allow you to retrieve data from Steam. They are usually triggered via an event that happens from Steam, such as whenever a friend logs on or off. And another common use case for a callback is that it could be triggered whenever you are invited to join a game, whenever you receive a chat message or receive a packet. So they're pretty important. And to listen for callbacks, the Steam Manager script will check for these in the process function so that it checks every frame that your game is running. Alright, so let's start by doing what Steamworks.net call a Sanity Check in their documentation. And this checks that the library is running okay, and if not, then throw an error. So we're actually just going to delete this stuff that we made the last time, and there are two checks that we're going to make. The first test is called pack size test, and the other one is called a DLL check test. So the way you do this is you just say if pack size test, and then we can print Steamworks.net. The pack size test returned false. The wrong version of Steam is being run on this platform. So that's the first test. Then there's another one that we're gonna do, and that's DLL. DLL check test. And in that case, if that returns false, we are going to print Steamworks.net the DLL check test returned false. One or more of the Steamworks binaries seem to be the wrong version, okay? So this is what the Steamworks.net API documentation call the Sanity Check, and exactly how this works, I'm not really sure, but if something's wrong, this is going to be thrown, an error is going to be thrown at the user. So we'll just have it here because for just in case, just in case something might happen, the user is going to get in some kind of error. So we have this. Now let's call this for the Sanity Check. Alright, so that's the first thing that happens when the application starts. Now we're going to check if the application is being run through the Steam client. Okay, and we're going to do a try catch here. So first we're going to try to Steam API restart app if necessary for 80. And I need to explain to you actually what the 480 thing is. But for now, I'm just gonna see gd print restarting through Steam, and then quit the game. Okay, so what's wrong here? Oh yeah, this has to be an app ID. So I'm gonna quickly explain to you what the Steam app ID.txt file is, because this is one of the files that we imported into our project root the other day. And let me just find it. Steam tutorial here. So Steam _ app ID.txt. This is a file that we have in our project root right now, and all it says is 480. As long as this file is inside of our project directory, it means that we are currently developing our game. When you export your game, this file right here should not be included upon the release in your release files, okay? So when we launch the game from Godot and this file right here is present in the project directory with the number 480, you will be shown as playing Space War on Steam, okay? So this actually makes it possible for us to play around with the Steam networking without having to buy an app ID from Valve. Now, if you did buy an app ID, you could just change from 480 to whatever your ID is. Now, we just programmed a check to see if the game was started through the Steam client or not. And if it isn't started through the Steam client, the game will quit and restart through the Steam client instead. However, if this file right here is present in the directory, the game will ignore this request to restart through Steam, and it's going to launch anyway. So if I were to remove this file and this code would be run, then the game would quit, get tree quit, and then the Steam client would start the game with app ID 480, which would be Space War. And in this case, your Steam client would probably be trying to download Space War because you don't have it installed. So we're going to try to see if the app is running through Steam. And we're going to catch an error if that doesn't work. And if this doesn't work, that means that the Steam library couldn't be found. So we're going to catch, we're going to have a system DLLX not found exception. I'm going to call it E. And then we're going to print failed to initialize actually, that's not what we're gonna write. I'm just gonna copy this from the steamworks.net page documentation. This is what it's gonna say. So it's gonna print couldn't load libsteam API.dll or SO or dilib. It's likely not in the correct location. So if we start our game up and we don't have the library with the game files, then this is going to be printed to the player, to the user. Okay, and let's also print. Let's make a new line and print the exception that we're getting. All right, so this should work. Let's just take this down here, and when all this is done, we're going to try and initialize Steam just as we did in the last episode. We're going to do this by if Steam API initialize. Now this is just a Boolean, so we're going to check it inside of an if condition. So if this returns true, that means the Steam API has been initialized, and we can again print just for the sake of doing something, Steam friends, just like we did last time, get persona name. And if it cannot be initialized, then we are going to print fail to initialize Steam. Please make sure that the Steam client is open. There we go. Very nice. Okay, so this checks right here, this is just upon starting the game, we make a sanity check. Is everything going alright? I'm not sure exactly what this does, to be honest with you, but on the steamworks.net documentation page, it says that it's a good idea to be running these so that the user can get some kind of error if something is wrong, okay? Now here we check if the application is being run through the Steam client. This is what I explained to you before. And here we try to initialize Steam. Alright. So this should work just fine. This should do the exact same thing as last time when we try to run the game. Let's see what happens. Yeah, so it works fine. And we added a bit more stuff. So this should work pretty good. Now, as I explained to you, we also need to run the callbacks within this script. And we need to do that within the process function. Alright, so run callbacks. And the way you do this is really simple. You just write Steam API, whoopsie, run callbacks, and that's it. However, we don't have any callbacks right now, so we don't need this. I'm just going to comment it out for now, so that we don't waste power on that. So this should be pretty good. Yeah. Now, if you run your game in the Godot editor, you might realize that the Steam overlay isn't actually available. You know, the overlay that usually it pops up down here saying you're now playing blah blah blah. Press Shift Tab to open the overlay, and nothing happens if you press Shift Tab. And this is only for Linux users actually. If you're using Windows, the overlay gets probably injected into the application, but on Linux for some reason, I'm not sure what the difference is, but the overlay doesn't get injected in probably. So we're gonna have to go through a makeshift solution that we're gonna be using if you want to use the overlay, and at some points the Steam overlay is pretty useful. For example, when we're going to be inviting users to join our game. So just to set that up, we're going to go through how to make the Steam overlay available on Linux. Now, if you're on Windows, you can skip this part, the rest of this episode. This won't be necessary for you guys on Windows. So, but for the Linux users, let's close Godot and open Steam. And go to Games, add a non-Steam game to my library, click Browse, go to wherever your Godot executable file is. Now mine is on my desktop inside of a folder called Godot 3.1, and I'm just gonna make Steam show all my files. And this is the executable file right here. So I'm gonna click on that, click Open, add selected programs, and now I have a Godot executable file inside of my Steam library. So if I were to play this, it should open my Godot editor, and it's not gonna do that right now because Steam is messing up my location for some reason. So just double check that the directory that you entered is correct. Mine is missing the 3.1. It's probably something to do with the space. It doesn't like the spaces apparently. But just make sure the location is correct. Now if I open it now, it should work just fine. It doesn't work just fine because even though it's the correct directory, you need to insert the name of the executable file as well. So we're gonna make it / and I'm gonna open the folder here. And this is the executable file I have. I'm just gonna copy the name and paste it in here. Okay, so after the / paste the name of the executable file. And now let's see if it works. Play. And alright, it does not work. And that is because that, ladies and gentlemen, is because I'm not really sure actually why that doesn't work. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. So I'm just gonna figure out why this doesn't work and I'll be right back. Alright, so I figured out why it didn't work, and that is because for some reason in set launch options, this was here. So if there's anything inside of set launch options, you just delete it. So now, hopefully, when I click play, it's gonna start the Godot editor. There we go. Very nice. But that's not what we want. We want it to start our project. So go back into properties, look at the target again, and after the executable file that the location of the executable file that we have here, you write path, that's double dash and then path, and then you insert the path to your project directory. So mine would be inside of my big drive here, and then Steam multiplayer tutorial. Then I would just copy this. There we go. I'm gonna delete the last /. So that's the location to my project directory, okay? The location of my project directory. And after this, I'm gonna insert my scene where that is located inside of my project, and that would be inside of scenes. And then I called my scene main.tscn. This should launch the game. So let's see what happens. It doesn't. So I fucked something up. Launch options is good. Oh yeah. If you have a space in your path, you're gonna have to make a backslash just before the space. For some reason, that's when executing commands on Linux. It's not a big fan of spaces, so you're gonna have to just tell it that there's a space here by making a backslash. So now, hopefully it'll work. And it does. Very nice. So this is the game running, and as you can see, we can access the Steam community while playing by pressing Shift and Tab. And this is my friends, of course, and I can go to the browser or do all that regular stuff using the Steam overlay. So if you were to use the Steam overlay, we might do it at some point. It's not completely necessary actually, but it can be very helpful at times when you're developing. So that would be how you get the overlay going on Linux if you need it while developing. Okay? So that would actually be that for this episode, and if you just want to be nice and neat, you could probably rename this to Steam Multiplayer, to whatever your project is called. So I'm just going to do like that. And that's going to work if I want the overlay. So that would be it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. You should consider leaving a like if you are learning new things. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.